It is not always easy to recognize when the right time to say goodbye has come. Does the old sick dog still enjoy life at all, or is he suffering so much that it would be a relief for him to be euthanized? How to make this difficult decision correctly? You will learn here. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. My name is Dr. Stresho. I'm an animal doctor, and every week I post videos, cases, topics, and tips on how to better take care of your fur babies. This week we will talk about the humane process to end your pet's suffering called euthanasia. But before we proceed, please hit like, subscribe, and the bell button so that you get updated for whenever we post new videos in this YouTube channel. We are on Facebook, Dr. Animal Wellness Center, and we are also on Instagram, Dr. Animal Wellness Center, and my personal Instagram, Stresho. On with our topic. The most important thing is that the decision to euthanize a dog is made independently of your own personal needs and feelings. Hindi basta feel mo lang, or kaya gusto mo lang, or sa tingin mo, ayaw mo na sa kanya dahil nahihirapan ka na. No. The decision is made solely in the interest and for the benefit of the dog. Under no circumstances should the effort and burden of keeping a sick or old dog be a reason to euthanize the animal. To take a dog out of life because it is no longer perfect or has become uncomfortable is a crime. On the other hand, it is also irresponsible to condone or to turn a blind eye to a dog's pain and suffering. Even one's own fear of euthanasia and painful loss should not cause the beloved animal to torture itself. This is misunderstood love at the expense of the animal. We bear great responsibility for our dogs. He depends on our care and must be able to rely on it. We owe it to him to care for him even in illness and in old age. But we also owe it to him to put him out of his misery and suffering. Let us review what are the decisive criteria. The fear of making the wrong decision unsettles many dog owners, but it is up to the owner to recognize whether, for example, his blind dog can still enjoy life or whether his dachshund with paralysis must be euthanized. In any case, you want to avoid taking your dog out of life too soon. But there are no universal criteria for suffering and joy of life. A rather calm dog may not miss much if it is restricted in its freedom of movement. An active dog may suffer greatly. A dog that loses an eye due to a tumor will therefore not necessarily lose its zest for life. But if the tumor presses on nerves and brain so that the animal can hardly perceive its environment, one should think about sparing him his agony. An alarming sign is usually when an animal stops eating or when it can no longer eat due to its advanced disease. Also, the general behavior, the joy of life that the dog feels can give information. A dog that still enjoys life and can and will still participate in the lives of its people will behave differently than a dog whose pain and suffering are rampant. When do we recognize suffering correctly? Ultimately, therefore, the type and extent of the disease and the general state of health are decisive, but also the age of the dog and its individual nature. First and foremost, you should pay attention to what your dog tells you himself. Keep in mind, however, that animals by nature often show very late when they are sick or in pain. In the wild kasi, this caution protects them from enemies who see a sick animal as easy prey. Kaya tinatago nila yung kanilang karamdaman. It is also important to put yourself in a dog's place as an animal, not to judge his situation from a human point of view. For example, a human on crutches will suffer less than a paralyzed dachshund tied to a frame with wheels. Ultimately, it is up to you to decide when the time has come to put your animal out of its misery and euthanize it. Unfortunately, No one can take this difficult decision away from you. You, and only you, can make this difficult decision. If you have any doubts, if you are looking for advice and help, you should contact your veterinarian and ask for his opinion and experience. The next usual question: will my dog suffer or feel pain when I put him to sleep? The technical term for putting a dog to sleep is euthanasia. The word comes from the Greek word good dying, or EU, good, thanatos, dying. Many pet owners, however, still have concerns that euthanizing their dog may not be good for them, but painful. When a dog is professionally euthanized, it does not experience any physical pain. He does not feel the onset of his death. Basically, animals are euthanized with an anesthetic. A so-called narcotic barbiturate is knowingly overdosed. That's it. Injected into the bloodstream in too large a quantity or a very concentrated quantity. The dog is thus first put into sleep or put into deep anesthesia so that he does not notice when the effect of the overdose occurs. In the deep stage of anesthesia, he stops breathing, his heart stops beating. This is how euthanizing a dog works. Larger animals are usually given a sedative or a neuroleptic before the actual euthanasia. This injection is simply given into the muscle of the animal and causes it to first fall asleep. Only then, when it is deeply and soundly asleep, is the actual anesthetic injected into the bloodstream. This two-step procedure prevents any possible complications or delays from occurring when the anesthetic is injected into the vein. Although a dog is in very deep anesthesia, it may still twitch its muscles, urinate, or defecate when death occurs. Kasi nga, muscles will begin to relax and sphincters will loosen up, kaya minsan maiihi sila or madudumi. However, what looks horrible to observers is in no way a sign of pain or consciousness in the part of the animal. These movements are purely mechanical, similar to reflexes. The animal does not perform them consciously. It feels and notices nothing more of them. Does the dog know it's time? Many people ask themselves whether the dog is aware of its approaching end, how it deals with it, whether and how we can help it. It is well known that animals in the wild withdraw, possibly even separate completely from their family when they expect their death. They anticipate the impending parting and instinctively prepare for it. A pet that signals to its human that its time has come will also feel and experience something similar. It mourns, but the impending death does not seem to cause it any fear. It is not panic and fear of death, but rather the uncertainty that the time has come that seems to characterize its feelings. As a rule, it is more the grief and fear of his people that make the dog restless. In the event that you have already made an informed and objective decision to have your pet euthanized, here are things that you need to prepare. In order not to worry the dog, even if it's very difficult, we should try to be strong in the difficult hours of saying goodbye. Especially now, he needs our strong hand, which accompanies him protectively and on which he can rely. It is important that we also arrange an external circumstance in such a way that our pet is spared unnecessary stress and frightening excitement in his last hours. So if you have decided to give your dog a gentle death, you should discuss it calmly with your veterinarian. Ask him if he can make a home visit and euthanize your pet in his familiar surroundings. If this is not possible, you should definitely make a special appointment. Make this appointment at the beginning or at the end of a consultation so that you will not have to wait long in the hustle and bustle of a busy practice. Consider beforehand if you want to be with your dog during the last few minutes. After all, deciding this on the spur of the moment could overwhelm you. The resulting restlessness could also be transferred to your dog and put a strain on him as well. But if you're going to ask me, stay with your dog during his last moments. Also beforehand and in peace, you should consider asking a close trusted person to stand by you in this difficult moment. In your own interest, you should also discuss in advance with your veterinarian the unpleasant subject of what will happen to your dog after it is put to sleep. Whether you take the body home, bury it yourself, or have it buried, or whether your veterinarian takes care of it instead. If you decide on one of the first two options, unfortunately, this must also be prepared. Even though euthanasia was certainly a relief for the dog, the loss of the animal is difficult to overcome. Everyone deals with grief differently. Find out what really helps you grieve for the dog, even if it doesn't feel like it after the euthanasia. With time, you will surely learn to cope with the loss. If you have questions and clarifications, please call the numbers listed posted on the screen or visit any of our Dogford's Animal Wellness Centers. You may also want to visit the website at www.dogfordsawc.com. This has been your vet, Dr. Tresho, and see you again next week.